Hi, everybody. John Faring here with Live Large Universe, and boy, do we have a show for you tonight. So, coming to you in just a few minutes is Astasia Purser. Hope I'm getting her name right. I think I got it down this time. But Astasia's going to be on, and we're going to be talking a little bit about, being a backcountry sledder. She lives up in Montana. She'll give you all the details there as well. But as we're waiting for her to come on, and as if you guys are coming on, you all have instructions. So as a audience participation, you all need to do a few things for me, and that is to go into the comments. So go into the comments right now and let us know where you're watching from, and that'll pop up with two things. That'll give us your name, where you're at, and where you're watching from. And then maybe if you're stoked for sled season to come, drop that in the comments too. If you're not stoked, I also want to know that. So just on a 1 to 10 scale, how stoked are you for sled season to be coming? I know myself and Edith, my wife, we've been in the garage tinkering. So I was wrapping up, no pun intended, I was wrapping up putting some sled wraps on my sleds this weekend. Got that posted on my page too. If you haven't seen that, Dynamic Designs, one of my sponsors here, does an amazing job on sled wraps. And I went with Chrome, a Freedom Edition. It's kind of like a tattered flag look to the sled, but black chrome, black on gray on kind of a chrome color, and turned out fantastic. So go back and take a look at that. But before we get too far into this, I'm going to encourage you guys to go ahead and check out the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes. So in the show notes, again, this week, we have a link here for you guys. And this coming weekend, a week from now, is the Salt Lake City Snow Show. And so the Salt Lake City Snow Show is coming up, and I have a link in there for the promo code that's going to give you 30% more bonus tickets to be able to enter the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes. And as a reminder, the money that we raise for the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes goes to avalanche centers across the country. I actually had a really good conversation with Caleb Merrill, I believe his name was, does a podcast named the Avalanche Hour podcast, and he's invited me to come on there, and we had actually a good conversation today about where a lot of this money's going and the cool things that's happening with Avalanche Alliance. So we're going to talk a little bit about more of that on his podcast. But in the meantime, check this out. This is the grand prize that we're going to be giving away. The sweepstakes ends on December 10th and then goes on December 18th. We're going to be giving it away, this sled. And so make sure you guys get into with the links here. And again, this year, every time there's a new snow show, we're putting out a new promotional code link giving you a bonus 30% more tickets. So take advantage of that. This offer here for this particular promo code only lasts through, I think it's the 21st. So this coming weekend coming up. So grand prize, Polaris sled, boosted, all decked out. This is going to be like a $30,000 sled after it's all tricked out, decked out. Pretty amazing. And then we're going to go into a Marlon Sled Deck. So this is the sled deck that I use personally. It's an amazing piece of equipment and has not let me down. Each year I get a new one, and I've sold the old ones to friends and people in the clubs and stuff around me, and everybody's still using and loving all of their sled decks that they've had over the last, 10 years almost. Probably not quite that long, but it's pushing 8-9 years. I think I've been using Marlon Sled Decks, and they've been amazing. So next thing we have is for all of you out there who have a youngin' in your life, and so we have a Arctic ZR200 is the another prize on the sweepstakes. So this is a ZR200. Some lucky kid out there is going to have a brand new sled from Arctic. So thank you, Arctic, for sponsoring the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes. And then we have Climb. So Climb obviously is the originator of Avalanche Alliance and now the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes. And they're giving away their package prize here. So they've got an airbag pack, monosuit, $2,000-$3,000 worth of gear here you can get access to by winning this with the sweepstakes. And then the final prize pack is the ORTOVOX Avalanche kit as well. And so let's go ahead and switch over to talk a little bit about the Share and Win sweepstakes. So what I want to let you guys all know about is that if you right now go into the comments, I see a few of you guys have done this. I see Brian Brumwell on here. I see Sody Clay. I see Rory Cadditt's on here. So we got 3 people already in there letting us know where they're watching from. They're saying hi. Go in the comments. Drop us a comment. Let us know where you're watching from tonight. And if you do, and you get this shared out on your personal page, different snowmobile pages, maybe even tonight, some nutrition or health pages that you think would benefit from this as well, you get a chance to win this amazing Harvester handsaw. So this is a good one that you can keep in your tunnel bag, maybe in your truck. If you get on down the road and you need to get through somewhere, this might be the one, the key to unlock the road you're trying to go up or the trail you're trying to go up. So Astasia, we're going to bring you on here if you want to come off mute. We're going to do that in 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's see if I can bring her on camera. And there you are. How's it going, Astasia?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. So let's get this right off the bat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you about being on a live broadcast with all these people watching?
Yeah, I'm like a 10. I'm not a, but it's good. I'm excited.
That's good. That's good. What's awesome because actually we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth later tonight too. But you had shared with me that you're not necessarily considering yourself a super outgoing person, and you're definitely pushing many boundaries in your life, which we're going to learn about tonight. Which I'm really excited to share because one of the things I love about this show in general, and specifically this show tonight, is that we talk a lot about. Human things. It's definitely a show around snowmobiling and all those kind of things, but there's always some kind of like lessons learned and life lessons and, inspirational things that different people and different guests have brought on. And I think I'm excited for tonight because I think you're going to unlock a few things for different people to think about tonight as we go through the show. So awesome.
That's the hope. I hope so.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, our good friend and mutual friend, Rory Kaditz, out of, I think he's in Wisconsin or Michigan. I know he's over in the Midwest or
Michigan.
somewhere. I think he's in Michigan, right? So I got to see Rory over at Heydays in, when was that? The second weekend of September. And I don't think it was too long after that, a week or two after that, he told me, he goes like, John, I got to tell you this awesome story. I just won this like 3 month session from Astasia, and I told her she needs to get a hold of you, and we're going to do an episode. And I'm like, send her my way. And so that's how we got introduced, and you reached out. So what's your side of that story? Did he give you like just harass you about like you need to go on John Ferry Live or the on Live Large Universe show?
Oh, first of all, let me say what an amazing human. I mean, I haven't even met him personally, but he joined my Facebook group page wanting some advice nutritionally. We messaged back and forth, just kind of talking. And I was doing a scholarship. He applied for it. I chose him as the winner. And then, yeah, he was like, "You have got to talk to John."
Oh,
And
that's
so,
amazing.
so yeah, thank you to Rory for hooking us up, definitely.
Yep, yep. And your description of him being an amazing human, I can second and third that vote as well too. And I've known Rory for I don't know 3, 4, 5 years maybe or so through Facebook, and then 2, 3 years ago or more we got to meet in Heydays in person a few times, and then this year we got to like intentionally meet up. I think it was on Friday night before Heydays. We got together with him and a bunch of the other folks over that way in Wisconsin and stuff too, and Luke Wildman Dobbs, Jason McCleary. Lorelai and her husband Robert were there. I don't know. We had a bunch of different folks that we all got together. I think Lyric Murphy and her boyfriend showed up there too as well. And it was great to be able to see everybody in person. And then Rory, I had actually taken a few months off over the summer here because things got a little crazy for me on my side of town here. And Rory was my first guest in early September going into Heydays and into the season. So it's a great way to kick off the season because I agree amazing human being. So Rory, shout out to you. Appreciate you. Much love, and thank you for getting the introduction happening. Awesome. Well, Stasia, let's let everybody get to know you, kind of just high level. Give us kind of the rundown. Like, who's Astasia? Let's learn a little bit about who you are, where you're from, maybe what you do, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, so Northwest Montana, been here most of my life. I was reminiscing on my first snowmobile. My dad took me riding, and he drugged me riding for a large majority of my childhood until I finally drank the Kool-Aid and was as addicted as he was. But my first sled was a 91 Arctic Cat Prowler with purple flames, because what girl doesn't need a sled with purple flames? That still runs to this day. And yeah, I mean, he took me everywhere. And 8 years old, and the rest is history. I went through every single make a snowmobile, Mountain Max, everything.
that's awesome.
And yeah, and it was the best time of my life getting to grow up on the mountain with my dad. That was pretty amazing. And now I have two little brothers. Well, they're 15 and 13 now, so they're actually pretty much taller than me, but
Yeah, yeah.
getting to enjoy that with them. And I have a husband I've been married to for 10 years. And yeah, same thing. Like, this is what we live for. We ride,
Yeah.
and just enjoy the time with our friends, and just get out in the mountains, and there's nothing better.
Yeah. So early in your life, you grew up snowmobiling because it was part of your community. And speaking of your community, I think I shared with you a month ago or 2 3 weeks ago when we first talked that I was just in your neighborhood recently.
Yeah.
So over the last week of July, I actually was in and around the area south of Flathead Lake. And when you first introduced yourself, and I know people do this all over the country because they're like, well, people aren't going to know where I live. I'm not going to tell them the town I actually live in. And so you told me you lived in, was it Paulson or something like that is where you first told me you lived,
Yeah.
and I says, oh, I was like just down the road in Ronan, right? And you're like, that's actually where I live, and I'm like, that was kind of funny. And so settle this for me because like when I read it, it looks like Ronan, right? But everybody says no, the locals call it Ronan, not Ronan. So what is it?
Yep.
Which
It's Ronan, but everybody calls it Ronan. I don't know.
So the folks in the area told me that if you call it Ronan, they'll know you're a tourist. Like if you're from out of
Yep.
town and you're Ronans. But if it's Ronan, people will think maybe you're local and they won't like like punch you in the nose when you're walking down the street or something like that. Is that
Yeah.
true?
I mean, yeah. Yep. And the dirty looks might not be quite so bad if you say
Yeah,
Ronan.
yeah. So
But
great little community. We actually stayed at a little Airbnb right in town, just a couple miles outside of town there. And our first night we got there, the first thing we did is we went down to the little brewery, the Ronan Brewery, and they had a car show in town that night when we were in town that night. And so we got to see the car show, got to have a couple of beers there right in Ronan, and the scenery is amazing because you're right at the foothills of what's the name of that mountain range that's right there, like just to the east of Ronan. What is that? You'll tell me. And I
yeah,
can't
so it's
remember.
the
The Mission
Mission Mountain
Mountains.
range. Yep.
Yep.
And I actually live like right on the base of that mountain range. So
Lucky.
um yeah, pretty I couldn't beat it, that's for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so we talked a little bit about you've been snowmobiling, a big part of your life, and let's talk a little bit about kind of, you know, you consider yourself a backcountry snowmobiler, for many years. But is there a point like in the last, call it 5 10 years that like you had a moment in time where it was like maybe it was the point you met your husband, like where you went, I don't know, maybe you got him into it. I don't know. What's the story about how you really in recent like 10 years got into the mountain side of snowmobiling? And because I've seen some pictures and videos from your Facebook page, and you're a pretty dang good rider, and I'm pretty impressed with at least the few clips I've seen already. And how did you get there? Did it just kind of slowly come to you over time? Was there a moment in time where you met somebody that really showed you the ropes, or how did you get into hardcore backcountry snowmobiling the way you're doing it now?
Yeah, so my dad always, it was very much, he took me and either I figured it out or I didn't get to go next time. And so there was that. But when I got, I remember the exact sled, I got a Skidoo 850 in 2018.
Nice.
And my husband was, I like chutes and stuff. Like I like hill climbing. And my husband said, if you're going to start riding with us boys all of the time, then you need to learn how to ride trees. And we picked up that 850 Skidoo, and I looked at him and I said, I'm going to total this sled. And he said, oh, great.
That's awesome.
And that sled, I became a very aggressive tree rider. And I am the only female that I ride with in our group. And the boys I ride with, they take me into everything. And
Wow.
they know that I have to make it because they won't take me again. So, but yeah, no, I love pushing myself. I can't even explain to you how many times I have showed up at the parking lot to go riding with maybe a new group, and I have been asked to leave, or I have been told that it's not a good idea, or they don't talk to me, and then they see my riding style, and then maybe they warm up a little bit,
So I'm gonna call this for what it is, and forgive my language, but what you just described is complete bullshit. Like
Yeah.
for people to treat you like that just because you're up and because they assume because you're a girl or a woman that rider that you're not gonna be able to quote unquote hang with them. I'm just gonna call that out right now. And anybody who sees this and watches that, like that's complete crap. Like for the most part, when you meet somebody new, be curious, ask questions, let them know what you're going to be doing and what you're planning on doing, and then ask them, like, is that something you're up for or is it not? But don't decide for somebody whether they should or shouldn't be in your riding group or not too, because it it kills me. It literally kills me to hear a lady like yourself, and frankly any lady out there, that gets that. And I hear it over and over and over again, and it's so frustrating to me that we're in a sport where people just assume that a male rider versus a female rider, you're automatically gonna be better or worse or whatever. And frankly, it's similar. Like, we joined a snowmobile club. My wife goes out and ride with me, and my wife is a good rider. She can outride probably half of our snowmobile club of what's out there, different people there too. And so people love going out and riding with my wife and stuff too. But it's like this idea of, like, just because you're, you think you're a hardcore rider or whatever, that, someone else ain't gonna be able to hang with you. Knock that crap off and just get out there and let's have some fun, and everybody just support each other, right? Like, and if somebody
Oh yeah.
maybe isn't to where they need to be, or where they think you think they should be, then help them, for goodness sakes. Don't uninvite them. Adjust your day a little bit and bring them along, and help them elevate their game. So
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And, to all the ladies out there that might feel that way, like, you're never going to be as good. You're never going to be better unless you push yourself and you
yeah,
put yourself into those instances where maybe you aren't going to do as well.
yeah,
I get stuck all of the time. I've
yeah,
gotten really good at getting myself unstuck now.
yeah,
So, you gotta push yourself and never let anybody else define the level of rider that you're going to
yeah,
be.
yeah.
So,
And I
I
think
I I, I accept the challenge.
there you go. There you go. And I think what you just heard from Astasia is something you're going to hear throughout this interview tonight, is this idea of, oh, a challenge? Let me figure out how to overcome that. And we're going to keep moving forward and keep moving forward and keep moving forward and grow and become better and help others become better. So that's what Astasia here is all about. And so if you guys haven't already, get in there, share the show out, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Invite your friends, like, let them know we're watching right now live, and invite them in, and then, share it out so that people can watch this as a replay tomorrow. So if you're watching tonight live, drop it right in the comments, say live. If you're watching this tomorrow or anytime this next couple of weeks, just drop it in #replay, and we'll love to hear from everybody as they're coming in, whether you're watching this as a replay or a live broadcast right now. So, Stasia, I don't want to say the most important, but probably the most impactful part of your story that you shared with me in our pre-interview discussion is this idea of, you had a pretty significant medical issue going on in your life. And I think you told me it was about 10 years ago-ish, give or take, about that long ago. Before we kind of like unpop the bubble of what it was, talk to me a little bit about what you were experiencing, right? Like, obviously you were having some health issues, you weren't feeling well, you were seeing a doctor, talk us through that. And then ultimately what unlocked your final diagnosis, and then we'll go forward from there. But let's go up to that point of, 10 years ago, you were not well. Tell us about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, and, just for kind of more groundwork for everybody watching too, I've worked in the medical field for 12 years, in imaging and assisting doctors and everything. And, yeah, just started having some extreme joint issues, fatigue, horrible gut pain that would keep me up at night. I'm not one to go running to the doctor. And so I just kind of kept pushing it off until it got to the point where I was physically so ill that I was not able to take myself to the hospital. So
Wow.
my husband now, but my boyfriend at the time, he come to my house, took me to the hospital. And that kind of just started this whirlwind of misdiagnoses. I spent over a week in the hospital. Over the course of 6 weeks, I lost 25 pounds, 30
Wow.
pounds. And they just really couldn't get a dial on what was going on with me. I was told that I had horrible ulcers and just take a bunch of pills and it'll go away. But I mean, I was not able to shower by myself. My mom had to come live with me.
Wow.
And went from, me working full time, doing all these things to just a brick wall.
What was
And
the time window of when you first started feeling sick versus your diagnosis? Like, what was that time window?
it was about 3 months.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of, going to the doctor being like, man, this is not getting better. My mom trying to find some help for me, and it was not getting better. And when you're that ill and you've had this quality of life before, and then now you're in this new position and you don't know what it means, it's mentally
Oh yeah.
so it's so depressing. And so finally, after about 3 months of just pretty much like, this is what's wrong with you. Sorry, it's your medications aren't working, but just survive, I guess. One of the doctors that I worked with finally pulled me aside and was like, I've been following you. I was trying not to overstep my bounds, but you're not being cared for properly. This is what I think you have. You need to go to this specialist. Went to the specialist, and I mean, within a week, I had a diagnosis.
Wow.
And so,
The
do
diagnosis
you want me,
was, yeah, go
do you want me
ahead.
to pop a bubble?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And so, for people that don't know,
Yeah.
Crohn's disease is an
Educate us. Yep.
autoimmune disorder. Yeah. It attacks your gastrointestinal lining. Um, but for me, I had a lot of gut stuff, but a lot of mine was a lot of joint issues that has
Wow.
been the long-term issue. Um, but nutrition absorption is a huge issue. Eating is a huge issue when you're not in a state of remission. And so just really battling through that. So getting the diagnosis was kind of like, okay, that's great. I understand what's wrong with me now. Because honestly, I was at the point where I'm like, I have cancer. They don't know yet. I'm just going to just not wake up one morning. I was so sick of being sick.
Yeah.
And so, the diagnosis was kind of like the start of trying to understand what my life was going to be like now. They I've been on so many meds. They put me on injections to help with my joint issues. That really never helped. They've put me on leukemia meds. That really never helped. I'd been on prednisone for years because it was like the only thing that could kind of get me out of bed. And let me tell you, snowmobiling on prednisone is a whole interesting thing because your adrenal glands are so overstimulated from
Wow.
that steroid, and then you go and do something that's super cool and exciting. And I mean, I would have to take a nap on the mountain, so my husband would like cook me
Wow.
lunch, and I would take like a 20-minute nap, get my adrenaline back under control,
Wow.
eat, go do it again.
Yeah.
And so it was that was several years of just surviving because I would go to the doctors and ask for help, and they'd give me a new prescription, and it was just enough to make me be able to survive what I was dealing with. But I still always knew that I could feel better. I just
Yeah.
didn't know how to at the time because I wasn't being given the resources that I needed to feel better.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so, basically, I mean, everything you described there, and I think of like you're at this point in your life where you have thrived, you've gotten sick, you've come back to now surviving, but not again thriving. And at some point, your doctors told you this is the life you're going to live, right? Like, basically. And
Yeah.
and I want to pause for a second too, because you mentioned it earlier, and I'd love to kind of, and I don't know if you can describe it any better too, because everybody has their own journey, and I don't know that it's the same for everybody, but mental health is something that's super important to me as well too, and I think the idea of being diagnosed at probably a pretty young age. I mean, were you in your 20s still at that point? That
I was 20. Yeah.
yeah, that you were being diagnosed with this, and that you thought the rest of my life is going to be this, this surviving mode. Your mental health, like I can only imagine what that is like, because I mean there's nobody on this show, like I come from the philosophy that there's not a human being on this planet that doesn't have something in their life that's broken, whether it be them personally, somebody around them, they've lived with somebody who's been ill, they've been ill, somebody in their life has died, they've gone through some kind of abuse. Like there's not a normal human being on this planet. There's no such thing, right? We've all gone through our own struggles and our own surviving. And mental health is one of those things that one way or another affects everybody. And especially the last, call it 5 years of living through COVID, living through things like this, living through things like that's going on in the world today with the Israeli war and all these other things going on in the world. Like it gets on people's minds of like, what does my future look like? And I don't know. Is there anything you feel like you can add to kind of help kind of solidify that for people and just help them understand the mental health side of what you were dealing with at the same time as you were going through this physical issue?
Yeah, for sure. Because we are taught to, when we have a physical issue or when we have something going on, whether it's depression or anything like that, we're taught to go to your doctor and ask for help, right?
Yeah.
And so, for me, I was going and I was asking and I was asking and I was asking, and it was just like, you have to trust us. And I'm like, but you're not giving me what I want. I'm
No.
not feeling better. And so it was really lonely. I mean, my parents are great. I had a great support system with them and my husband, but they still don't understand the amount of issues that I'm dealing with physically. And I don't like to be a type of person that whines and complains. And I always tell my dad he raised me to get tough or die. That's kind of how it was. And so to be dealing with that and knowing that the feeling like the only resource you had was really letting you down. I really feel for people that struggle with that. But, life is never linear.
Yeah.
We're going to have really high points and really low points, but ultimately, if I've learned anything, it's you have the power to make the decisions for yourself to make
Yeah.
those points high points, even if they're low.
That's really, really important for you to share. And I think of, I won't go into detail, but even issues that my mother has had with some medical issues in her life and her career where, she says this, and I know you feel the same way, is that, you know your body better than anybody, including the doctors, right? Like, because you know what feels normal, what doesn't feel normal. And if you're not getting the answers that are going to get you through this, don't be afraid to keep pushing. Don't be afraid to keep asking the questions and to find new resources and sources of things there too. And that brings us right to that point in the story where you've looked a little bit inward for yourself to be able to find what your ultimate solution was. And so talk about that moment in time that you realized, or that it came to you that, man, this is something I might be able to dabble in myself and to kind of get myself out of this situation. So take us back to that moment in time, and from there go forward into this idea of being a nutritionist now.
Yeah, and I honestly it gives me chills because it was like this like light switch moment for me because I had started going to a CrossFit gym because some of my coworkers were, and I'm like, well, I feel like garbage.
Yeah.
I can't snowmobile like I used to, so this isn't gonna make it worse. So I might as well just go and see if I can get a little strength for snowmobiling back. And that was my only thing I cared about. And I started going and I'm like, man, I mean, I'm telling you, air squats made me cry. My joints hurt so bad, but it felt a little bit better like the more I went. And
Yeah.
so I went to my doctor with this stack of paperwork on research on Crohn's. Like I said, I work in the medical field. I know how to do research. So I brought in a folder of stuff and I said, I found all these new up and coming tests and up and coming things that are going through in Europe. Can we look into it? Can you help me? Because I want to feel better. I want my life back. And he wouldn't look at anything. And he said, I'm the doctor. You have to trust me. I'm taking care of you. You just let me do my job.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was it. I was like, you know what? I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be on 5 meds and taking injections multiple times a week and be on prednisone and feel like a lunatic on it. And so I walked out of that appointment and I'm like, I'm done. If I'm not going to have somebody advocating for myself, and I'm in my early 20s, I know I can feel better. Then it was time to take the bull by the horns and figure it out myself. And so I started really looking into nutrition and trying to figure out how I was eating and trying to see how that could make it better. And that was 4 years ago, and I'm off all of my prescriptions but
Wow.
one. I take a ton of natural stuff, but I could never ever say that I've never had joint pain, and I don't have joint pain anymore.
That's amazing.
And so, that time it took me to understand the foods that we're putting into our body is just like the fuel we put into our sleds. If we're putting garbage fuel that's been sitting in the shed for a year, so that's not going to run very well. We're
Yeah.
not feeding ourselves with
Yeah.
purpose, we're not going to feel very good.
Yeah.
And it was that moment right there. I was like, man, I don't need nobody to tell me that I can't live like this. This is not my new normal. I mean, he full on told me to quit going to CrossFit. He told me to quit snowmobiling. He said, you need to take up water aerobics would be a good option for you, and to accept the fact that this is your new normal. And it was just like, that is not happening. That's not happening for me.
That's
Sorry.
amazing. That's amazing. So I mean, think back in your whole life, right? Like, 'cause something you just said that I just like. There's somewhere that it comes from. What is it in your life, whether it be through your childhood, your teens, early 20s, or something, where you learn to not accept no as the answer? Like, what drives that? Does that come from your dad? Does that come from your family? Where does that come from? Because that doesn't just happen by accident. Because most human beings listen to their doctors and understand, like, hey, I guess this is what it is, right?
Yeah, my parents are watching right now, and I'm sure my mom and dad are dying laughing because I've just always been that way. I was like, don't tell me no because I will show you how I can do it
Yeah,
the way I want to do it. So, but yeah, I mean, my parents, they wanted me to have a backbone. That was like their most important thing. My mom was like, you always need to learn that you can know that you can take care of yourself. And my dad always pushed me.
yeah,
And so, they never ever wanted to have a child that, didn't stand up for themselves. And they made sure that that was something that I wasn't going to do.
that's
And I mean,
awesome.
it backfired them on a little bit when I was a teenager, but
Isn't that the truth? And that's true. I can relate to that
yeah,
comment a little bit. So, yep. Awesome,
yeah.
awesome, awesome. And so, go back through the idea that, you found nutrition, you found working out, and you found something that worked for you, right? And over a period, you said of about 4 years, 3 years maybe is what it was, you started feeling awesome, right? Was there a point before you formally became a nutritionist or just started going in for training for a nutritionist that you started finding that you were able to give advice to others around you and it was helping them as well before you officially kind of got into that program?
Yeah, I mean, my friends and my mom especially, she saw that I was making changes and feeling better, and so that people would ask me, and I love talking about it. It's
Yeah,
changed my life, so I'm
yeah,
super passionate about sharing it with others. Coworkers would come in to my imaging room and sit down and ask me questions about, what are you doing with this and what are you doing with that, and so it really turned into this passion for me because it changed my life so much. And then now I had people asking me for advice and wanting some guidance. And so, being a part of the medical world and seeing that anybody that gets in the medical world, they do it because they want to help people.
yeah,
And, I didn't feel like I was helping people anymore. I felt like that part of my job really died.
yeah,
And so, that's why, this natural evolution really worked for me to go into nutrition coaching. And I'm a massage therapist too, because, I want to help people and I want to give people that power and that strength back that they may have lost the
yeah,
way that I did.
yeah.
Um, and so it was just a really, really easy way for me to move into that.
That's awesome. And so you at some point here made a formal decision like this is what I want to do professionally and you started getting formal training for it. So talk us through your training and now the evolution of getting into becoming a nutritionist and what that's looked like over the last year or so.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, my husband came home for snowmobiling one day, and I was like, I'm gonna probably quit my job here in the next year. And he was like, "What?" But yeah, it hit me. I wasn't happy with what I was doing. I wasn't happy working for a big company that wasn't serving people or educating people on how to feel better. It was just prescription pushing. And so I started looking into what I could do to go to school for to help people the way that I help myself. And I found Nutrition Coaching Institute online and talked to them. And I mean, it was a phone call and it was done. I was on the way. So the program itself, you could take as long as you wanted, but I was like a sponge. I wanted all of it.
Yeah,
And
you're
so
hungry.
90 days I had that certification, and it is just like it's been the tip of the iceberg over the last year. I've been learning about mindset and hormones, and there's just the human body is such an amazing thing, and it's all connected. And so learning how all of that plays into feeling your best has been just I love it. I love learning, and getting to learn about this to help other
Yeah.
people it's been the best year, and it's pushed me out of my comfort zone so much on so many different levels. Like getting to talk with you. but yeah, it is the absolute best decision I could have ever made.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you've now formally been trained and been helping other people for about a year now, right? You're saying?
Yep.
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 And I just don't know, and I don't even know if these questions are appropriate, but I'm going to ask is, like how many people can you support at any given time? Like how many people are you meeting with on a weekly basis and over what period of time? Like what's normal for someone to meet with you? Do they meet with you 2, 3 times? Do they meet with you over 6 months? Like tell us about maybe, a little bit about that stuff. So,
Yeah, for sure. So I really like to work on a one-on-one basis just because I want to make sure that you are being educated and supported in the best ways that you can be. And so currently I have 20 clients and we meet once a week, whether that's on a phone call, I send you a video message, and we just check in. We set weekly goals and see how you're doing. 6 months is kind of the minimum that I like to work with people. And it's only because I want to make sure that we're setting a foundation for success.
yeah.
We are, I'm not your 90-day quick diet loss plan. We are setting a foundation for overall health. And that requires learning new habits. And so, working on that, building that. And then, the nice thing is that with the way that I coach people, you always have access to me to ask questions if you need advice on, hey, how are my lifts looking? Hey, I don't know what to eat. Hey, I really, really want to go to town in the freezer tonight. What can I do? you
Talk
know?
me off the
Um,
ledge. Talk me off the ledge.
yeah. Yeah. And in some cases it might be like, I have the bowl of ice cream, man. Do it if it's gonna
Yeah.
make you feel better.
Yep.
But we all have the tools to be successful, but sometimes we just need somebody to guide us and hold us accountable. And that is
There's a lot
really
to that. Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we all need it. We all need guidance. We all need help.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with asking for it, but it's really just setting yourself up for that long term.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep. Nope. That's awesome. And so I'm going to let people in the audience know who are watching. We're getting a lot of great interactions and comments that Astasia, you'll be able to go back and look at later and interact with these folks and just appreciate them for what they're doing and what they're saying. But it's a good time now if anybody has any questions specifically for Astasia, like maybe some high level base questions that maybe I've not asked already that you guys want to know more about. Let's drop those in now. And there's one other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit too, and you and I talked about this kind of before the show, is this idea of like, you were self-proclaimed introvert, and I don't know, to me that goes along with kind of the description of being kind of shy, not outgoing, and you've learned through this process that you've really been able to push yourself and you've seen some, I would say, unexpected results. Why don't you talk us through kind of describe what you were versus what you're doing and how that's out of your comfort zone and what are the fruits of that labor?
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I like my little bubble. I kind of like to stay home and going out and like talking to people and being interactive. I enjoy it when I get going, but oh man, that get going is whew, it is rough. um, but one of the things when I decided to start taking on this new journey with my career was I could not be willing to say no to things that were going to advance me as a person, advance me educationally, or help others. And so, I have it. And what I have learned over this last year is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is the single best thing that you could do for yourself.
Yeah.
And it has created so many new connections for me. I mean, because of Rory, I'm meeting you, and because of you, I'm going to be able to connect with a whole bunch of other people
Yeah.
and help them. And there's so much power in that.
Yeah.
I have my solid group of snowmobiling buddies. It's like 5 of us, and
Yeah.
we are this. But the importance of branching out. We are a worldwide community, and being able to get to know other people, there's so much power in that. And I'm glad that I'm learning it now. But it's definitely something that anybody that is feeling that way, it's tough, but it's, man, the benefits of it are just, it way outweighs the stress and anxiety of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'll say this for all everybody watching, and this also comes from me, but we're all extremely proud of you for what you've been able to accomplish for your personal health, for what you're doing to help others, overcoming your own fears, pushing yourself. May or may not mean anything to you, but I think it does, is we're proud of you. So congratulations for
Oh,
what
well,
you've been able to
thank you.
accomplish. So,
I appreciate it. If it means that I can, me doing it, if it means I can help even just one person to do
yeah.
the same thing, like it's worth it. It's
Yep.
100% worth it.
Yep. Keep kicking butt, taking names.
Yeah.
Unless there's something I'm forgetting, I think we should get into the part of the show where people can figure out maybe how to find you, whether it be through social media. If you want to share anything about your business, I know you shared with me beforehand a link to a Facebook page, and I'd encourage you here in a minute just to share a little bit more about that page and what people can expect there. But I'll just let everybody know that the link to your Facebook page that you're about to talk to is in the show notes, and so you can go back up to once the show's done, go into the link here and click on it. After they buy their sweepstakes tickets through the Avalanche Alliance sweepstakes, they can then click on the second link in there, which is your Facebook page, and we can go from there. But tell us a little bit about like how people can engage with you and interact with you and maybe get help from you. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, Facebook and Instagram are primarily where my two platforms are. So you guys can reach out to me on there, message me, DM me. My Facebook name is just Astasia Purser, my name. And then Instagram is Amp Life. And I have a Facebook group community, and that is where I put all of my knowledge and resources into helping people if they are wanting to take this journey and make the changes, but they just need a little bit of support. Like, get in that Facebook group. I do weekly lives, talk about different subjects, free resources. I'm in there all of the time helping people. The community, we have fun and they post things. We do challenges. And so if you're really needing some guidance or help in that aspect, definitely get in that group. If you want to talk to me personally, please message me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. This is my business, but at the end of the day, like, if I can give you a couple resources that you can take and run with,
yeah,
then I want to have that conversation for sure.
that's amazing.
So I just I had a great support system through this changing my life, and I want to be that support system for other people who need the help. So
Yep. Yep, absolutely. That's amazing. So, well, I feel like a good way to, is there anything else you want to share before I kind of start winding things down and wrapping up the show? Is there anything else, any topics that you feel like maybe we've missed that you want to make sure you touch on quick?
no, I just, I appreciate people watching this and even
Yeah.
listening to me talk. I mean, it's great. And I want to thank my parents and my brothers and my husband
Yeah.
for putting up with me. And just don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do something,
Yeah.
because you have the power. It's all up here, and it's the toughest part. But if you want something bad enough, like, you can do it. I believe that
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been on, believe it or not, for 43 minutes now. It's not
Oh,
hard to
wow.
believe. Yeah, 43
Yeah.
minutes. And I'm going to summarize everything you just said by summarizing what live large means, right? And what I tell everybody live large means, because literally what I'm about to describe is the purest definition of what you're doing in your life and what you've been able to accomplish. And what live large is, to everybody that doesn't know already, is live life to the fullest. So, get out there and live an adventure, make the most of every day kind of thing, right? And by making the most of every day, what I tell everybody is what you've gone through, right? Is this idea of like, not all days are great days. And how do you take that opportunity and turn it into something positive, right? And so, I have bad days, Rory has bad days, Kyle has bad days, Kevin has bad days, everybody on here, we've all had bad days. And so when you're living life to the fullest, making the most of every day, that means truly just getting after it, regardless of what you're up against, right? And then the final piece of it, which is what you're doing currently, is make a difference to others, right? So everybody, God bless you. Live large. Astasia, you've been an amazing guest. I appreciate you being on. And if you just hang tight, I'll talk to you here in just a second. Everybody else, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Have a great night, and we'll talk to y'all in a couple of weeks again. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.